Hey audio nerds, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're taking a trip to Budget Bluetooth Buds Central as we take a look at another AirPod Pro challenger, this time the Edifier Neobuds Pro. Now Edifier are well-known purveyors of decent quality budget audio gear, and you may well have seen my previous video of the Edifier desktop speakers, which I liked a lot. So can these Neobuds Pro give the likes of the AirPods Pro, the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pro, or even the mighty Sony 1000XM4 a run for their money? Let's find out. So first things first, these things come in a ridiculously large and somewhat flashy box, but as Shania Twain says, that don't impress me much. Apparently it's all to celebrate Edifier's 25th anniversary. I'm all for a bit of birthday madness, but next time Edifier, do it without trying to kill the planet as well, eh? Try some carrot cake instead, you'll enjoy it much more. But underneath all that packaging, you will find the essentials. The buds themselves within their charging case, a USB-C charging cable, plenty of spare ear tips, and the usual documentation which no one reads. First impressions are good. The case feels solid, albeit plasticky, and I do like the not so subtle design. It's even got a funky red LED indicator up front which swooshes across in a style reminiscent of Kit from Knight Rider. Thankfully though, there's no sign of David Hasselhoff, even though he probably would have fit into the ginormous box. Now it's not the slimmest case in the world, but nor is it ridiculously huge, and I just about managed to stuff it into my jeans. There is the usual USB-C charging port at the back, and no, this thing sadly doesn't offer wireless charging. You may not have expected that at this price point, but it would have been nice. Let's look at the buds themselves then. You've got your fairly standard AirPods Pro rip-off with a bulbous bit that sits in your ear, along with a stem containing mics and touch-sensitive controls. Except these look like they've been weaponized. The stem, in fact, looks like a spare part from a stealth bomber with its angular surfaces. Overall, I do like the sleek design. There are 3 mics on each stem, which promise to optimize noise cancellation and call quality, and we'll get to that in a minute. As a bonus, they are IP58 certified, so they will stand up to your disgusting gym sweat, no trouble. Battery life is about the same as the AirPod Pros, quoted at 5 hours with noise cancelling on and 6 hours with it off. And you can get 3 extra charges from the case. USB-C charging of the case takes an hour or so. So coming back to the fit, for me they're very comfortable. They don't poke too far into my ears and are similar in that regard to the AirPods Pro. They stayed in really well as I wandered around, but were prone to working themselves loose when I was running. My AirPods Pros with the foam tip mods are currently the absolute workout champs. Overall, I do think these are a pretty comfortable wear for most people. Getting them paired up with your devices is really easy. There's a little button on the case which puts them into pairing mode, and then you're good to go via the Bluetooth 5 connection. It's good to see that after a recent firmware update, the Neobuds Pro now support LDAC, which is, as you know, the so-called high-res format over Bluetooth, but AAC is also on offer because if you've got an iPhone, that's as good as you'll get. Okay, they look good, they fit good, but do they sound good? Now these employ a slightly unusual dual driver design, which is not often seen in true wireless earbuds. Usually see them in Chi-Fi IEMs. And these have both a dynamic driver for bass and lower mids, as well as a Knowles balanced armature driver to bring out those highs. So I fired up some tunes from my Xperia 1 Mark III by the LDAC codec using my own offline FLAC files, as well as Qobuz and Tidal streaming. Initial impressions are not unpleasant. What you get is a slightly consumer-friendly V-shaped frequency response with probably too much bass for my liking, along with some very pronounced highs courtesy of the Knowles BA. The bass isn't the most refined, sadly, and it sounds somewhat leaden compared to the likes of the AirPods Pros and the Sonys, both of which have a bit more texture and propulsion. There is more mid-bass bloat here than anything else. The mid-range, to me anyway, doesn't sound amazing. It's all a bit tight and compressed with very little sense of the air around the instruments and vocals, and the exaggerated mid-bass does bleed into the mid-range. As far as the highs go, there is a slightly metallic timbre to the upper mids and treble, with detail smearing of, for example, cymbals. This all results in a rather tinny sound compared to the Sonys or the AirPods Pros. There's also a touch of sibilance, and overall, while sounding really decent at this price point, the Neobuds Pro can't compete with wired IEMs costing roughly the same amount, such as the Moondrop Starfields, nor can they compete with cheaper sets such as a KB Ear Robins at £59. How about the added functionality then? Well, let's talk about noise cancelling first. Simply put, it's quite good. Not as good as the Sonys, but probably similar to the AirPods Pros. The transparency mode is absolute rubbish though, with the usual harsh, artificial digital noise coming through the earpiece. Let's face it, no one apart from Apple seems to be able to do transparency mode right. Call quality with all those mics is not bad at all, so these will suit you well for all your Zoom and Microsoft Teams shenanigans. There's also the aforementioned app Edifier Connect. It allows you to switch between the noise cancellation modes as well as apply custom EQ, which I have to say is unnecessarily complicated. If you invest some time though fiddling with the ridiculously complex EQ system, you might get a sound that you enjoy. You can of course also control the Neobuds to some extent by tapping the top of the stems, but it's just so clunky and doesn't always register taps. It's certainly a lot less pleasant to use than the squeezy touch controls on the AirPods Pros or the sensitive touchpads on the Sonys. So look, where does this leave us? Well, I'd say they're probably one of the best noise cancelling packages under £100 I've heard, but clearly they can't compete with the much more expensive AirPods Pros or the Sony 1000XM4s. I must apologise that I've compared them to these more expensive earbuds all the way through, because perhaps that's a bit unfair. But you know, I was expecting so much because I was so impressed with the other Edifier products, and sadly I came away feeling a bit disappointed. What I would say is if you're on a budget, you won't regret buying these. They're well built, feature packed, and have decent battery life. But I'd also suggest that if you can spend a little bit more, just north of £100 perhaps, I would go for a pair of the Samsung Galaxy Buds Pros, which you can find on eBay in brand new condition for just over £100. They are superior to these in every sense. So that's it for this video, guys. Those are my thoughts. I hope you found that interesting and useful. If so, do consider dropping a like, hitting subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos coming soon. Till then, stay safe, take care.